Marcello in the Real World is about a 17-year-old boy with Asperger's-like characteristics who spends a summer working in a law firm mailroom at his father's request in order to gain life experience. After reading Stork's novel, I feel strongly that Marcello in the Real World resists the single story of disability through Marcello's positive character development throughout the book. Before his experience in the mailroom, Marcello's life had a consistent, structured, and comfortable routine. I depicted Marcello's life as a cycle consisting of Patterson, represented by the horse, his visits to Dr. Malone, represented by a stethoscope, his visits with Rabbi Heschel, represented by the religious symbols, his internal music, denoted by the music notes, and his treehouse, which I tried my best to draw. I included textual evidence to explain that these routines and environments were established early in Marcello's life and have continued over a long period of time. His internal music has always been there. He has visited Dr. Malone every 6 months since he was 5. He has lived in his treehouse since he was 10, and he has visited with Rabbi Heschel since he was 7. At the center of Marcello's life is wealth and family, providing a strong foundation for financial and moral support, which is a luxury not typically associated with disability and is one factor contributing to the book being a counterstory. I drew some dollar signs and a stick figure family to symbolize the importance of his financial and familial support, making his experiences possible. I also pulled quotes that demonstrate some of Marcello's challenges due to his disability, such as the inability to understand body language and his personal need for having a set schedule. At the beginning of the book, Marcello explains that without a schedule to guide me through the day, I feel disoriented. Later, he has an interaction with Jasmine in which he explains, "Jasmine looks at me and shakes her head. I don't know what that gesture means." There's a scene in the book where Marcello writes in his notebook to later define and differentiate between the words jealousy and envy, because these are emotions that he does not personally understand or relate to. In another scene, Wendell spends a lot of time explaining to Marcello how women can be attractive in different ways and asks if Marcello notices attraction, to which Marcello responds that he does not notice or has felt attraction for a woman before. I colored this top portion in grayscale to reflect that at this point, Marcello regards life through a black or white lens and adheres to a strict moral code in which everything falls into a right or wrong category. There are several moments in the book when Marcello sees a color and automatically identifies it, such as when he first meets Jasmine, and azure is the word that comes to mind when he notices her eyes. The lines making a reverse funnel show how Marcello's view of the world is very narrow at the beginning, but is greatly expanded after his experiences in the mailroom. At the center of the page is the world and envelopes, signifying Marcello's time in the real world, where his father has placed him in order to learn how to survive. The page can then be divided into Marcello's worldview before and after his experiences working at his dad's law firm. I chose quotes in pairs, basically, to highlight specific changes in Marcello's character development and include the page numbers to contrast Marcello's disposition at the beginning versus the end. The images at the bottom of the page are in color and appear to have no specific organization. The use of multicolor reflects Marcello's shift to acknowledging that the world and events cannot simply be broken down into black or white or wrong. I placed the images in no particular order to show Marcello's increased flexibility and willingness to break his daily routines and schedules. The question marks emphasize the fact that Marcello is now faced with several situations causing him to really consider the world around him and his personal beliefs, which is a new challenge for Marcello as he reflects that Marcello has never felt confusion before. It is painful. Am I supposed to put my father ahead of everything? The heart and butterflies represent Marcello's change in experiencing his first ever butterflies of attraction, and even the possibility of a relationship with Jasmine. I included a quote in which Marcello accurately deciphers Jasmine's facial expression without difficulty, where he notices, "In Jasmine's face I see disappointment. The unformulated question on her face is why?" This is a great improvement in Marcello's development compared to his ability to read body language at the beginning of the book, and is represented by a disappointed face in the bottom corner. At a point later in the book, Marcello is given a letter that insinuates a physical relationship between Jasmine and his father, which prompts several internal questions for Marcello, including, is this what jealousy feels like? Contrasted to his experience before his time at the law firm, Marcello had to write down the words jealous and envious to later define and differentiate. But now he is actually feeling these emotions, which I depicted through drawing a green-eyed monster for Marcelo to represent whenever he's actually feeling jealousy. The most influential scene supporting Marcelo's character growth is when he visits Ixtal and examines the roses in the garden, as he bends down to look at a rose that is a color he has never seen before. The examination of the rose is followed by a conversation in which Ixtal reveals to Marcelo that everyone and everything has pretty and ugly parts. This realization is extremely significant in that Marcelo's perspective has expanded to recognize that the world can't be divided into black and white, but exists in a range of colors. At the beginning of the book, Marcelo confidently labels colors that he comes across, but later has trouble identifying a single color for the rose, highlighting his ability to see the moral ambiguity present in the world. This realization would not be possible without his exposure to situations that he encountered in the mailroom with Wendell, Jasmine, and his father. Rabbi Heschel states his experience plainly that Marcel has discovered something about the world we live in, some complication that pulls him in different directions. His change in perspective is also addressed during a conversation with his father, where Arturo exclaims that the world is not all black and white, to which Marcelo responds repeatedly that he knows. The biggest challenge for me during this project was objectively regarding the single story of disability. I have the privilege of having an older brother with a learning disability who shares a lot of characteristics with Marcelo. My personal experience has guarded me from the misconceptions surrounding disability, so I had a very hard time stepping back from my own feelings and opinions to consider what outsiders may view to be the single story of disability. Ultimately, I decided that the single story of people with a disability is that they will always be dependent on others and unable to make decisions for themselves. Marcelo's character greatly resists that single story by showing his personal development in being able to understand and interpret body language, that increasing ability to feel emotions and make major decisions for himself. At the end, Marcelo makes a plan for his future where Vermont will be the place where he can follow his special interests, and intends on going to nursing school for physical therapy to provide hippotherapy to autistic and disabled kids. Vermont is definitely far from his treehouse where he started and is represented by the mountains. Through his personal growth and character development, Marcelo's character resists the single story of disability that independence and success isn't possible by providing a counter story in which he is able to make decisions and plans for himself and function independently while still pursuing his personal interests. I think that Marcel in the real world paints a bright counter story for those with disability. Just considering my personal experiences surrounding disability, the fact that Marcelo grows and develops so much, enough to move to another state on his own, the potential of a romantic relationship as well as a career plan is extremely ambitious, but that's probably why I enjoyed the book so much. It is very much so a happy ending, which is all that I desire for my brother.